Getting ready to do sourdough, so I thought I would start this video. This is a 4-quart, 1-gallon bowl with a lid. This is what I use to make the dough, and it has a lid so it'll rise in there. But starting last night, I took this starter and fed it. Let me get it out of here. So this sourdough starter, I dumped out half of it last night. I don't know how much is in there, that much. So the night before, what I do is I feed it, which means I dump out about half of it and put in a cup of flour and a cup of water, stir it up really good, and then I put it in the little sourdough fridge and set it for 60 degrees. That's not where I keep it during the week. I keep it at about 45 during the week so that it slows it down and you don't have to feed it every day. But the night before I'm going to make bread, I feed it, put it in there, set the temp to 60, and let it sit overnight. Come out the next morning, and it is pretty much ready to go. What I'll do now is I'll take about 3/4 of a cup of this, put it in that bowl, add a cup and a half of water, 2 teaspoons of salt, and mix that all up until that is like, completely almost like milk. And then add in 4 cups of flour. And then and stir that up. There's not a kneading process. It's really just getting it blended together at that point. But anyway, that is the process. All right, this is my 3/4 cup starter, cup and a half of lukewarm water, and 2 teaspoons of salt. And I just use a spoon and mix this until it, dissolves completely in there. And then we'll be ready to put in the flour. Yeah, this is looking about right. It is, like I said, it kind of looks like off-color milk a little bit, but it's completely dissolved. So this is now, and again, starter, salt, water, that's it. And so now this is going to be ready to add the flour. And for the rest of the starter that was left over, that goes back in the fridge. I've got that set to 45. It can stay in there a week or two like that. And then the next time I'm going to make bread, I'll do the same thing. At night before I go to bed, I'll pull it out, discard half of that, put in a cup of flour, cup of water, stir it, set it to 60 degrees, and then get up the next morning and get ready to do what I'm doing now. All right, and I have added 4 cups of bread flour into that, and make sure you use bread flour. All-purpose flour has a lower protein content, which translates to lower gluten, and it's especially useful for sourdough bread to have high gluten. That's what gives that interior of the bread that huge amount of sponginess that it normally has. So I've stirred this together. When you first stir this up, it's going to look like it doesn't have enough liquid. It's going to look like it's too dry. But it is. It does have exactly the amount that it needs if you follow that recipe. What I usually do at this point is I have one of these sprayers that I got for like $10 on Amazon that you fill with olive oil. What I normally do is I spray a coating of that on my hand, and then I'll use that to kind of do a final just like mash down of this. I'm not going to knead it or spend any time doing that. All I'm really doing is just making sure everything is combined. So let me do that real quick, and then I'll show you what it looks like. All right, so the more you work with this, the wetter it's going to become. And I don't know if you can see the sheen that's on there, but it's pretty sticky at this point. So, like I said, when you're mixing it up initially, it's gonna look way too dry. It's gonna look like, man, I need to add another half a cup of water to this, but don't, because it will soon get back to this point. Once you've mixed it like that, and again, I did not need this. I spent 30 seconds with a little bit of olive oil on my hands, just kind of like mashing the dough down, but that was it. At this point, what I'm going to do is just put the lid on this thing, let it sit out here on the counter, and I'm going to start a timer on my phone for an hour and a half. At that hour and a half point, we're going to come back and do the first of 3 stretch and folds. So I'll show you what that looks like when we get back to this point. All right, it's been an hour and a half. It's time to do the first stretch and fold. What I normally do is just wet my hands, and then what we're going to do is just pull this away from the sides and grab one piece of it, and this is the stretch part of that. Stretch it up, fold it over, turn the bowl 90 degrees, and do it again. If you were going to, this is plain sourdough, but if you were going to add in anything, like if you wanted to make an Italian loaf with Italian herbs, or add in any nuts or raisins or any of that, you would do that at this time. Sprinkle them on, and then do the stretch and fold to kind of put them inside. So we do this all the way around once. And you can see the gluten's already starting to form, because this thing is really not even wanting to hardly stretch. It's got so much. Once we've done that, put the lid on, set a timer for 1 hour, come back and do it again. We're going to do 3 total. All right, so after my 3rd stretch and fold, I then took the dough, rolled it into a ball, and put it on parchment paper and put that back into the bowl. The reason I'm doing it that way is because we're going to cook it on the parchment paper. Specifically, the way that we do that is with a Dutch oven. So what you'll want to do is, about 45 minutes before you're ready to go with it in the oven, put this in your oven, this Dutch oven, and heat it up. And then when it's time to put the bread in, what we'll do is set that bread, take this out of the oven, set the bread in it hot, put the lid on, and bake it for the first 20 minutes inside the Dutch oven with the lid on. And then 20 minutes after that, you'll want to take the lid off, leave the rest of it in the Dutch oven, but take the lid off and let it finish cooking that way. So that's the process. So you'll want to make sure and have it on one of these before you're doing your final rise, because the only thing we're going to do as the final step before cooking is we're going to take a knife and cut into this, cut a score down the middle, and then lift it out, put it in the hot pan, put it back in the oven, and away we go. All right, we have reached the end of the journey for this part of it. So now it's time to score this and get it into the oven. You want a really sharp knife for this, and I usually spray both sides of the knife with a little olive oil, just because the lubrication helps. The dough is really sticky. So we're going to just basically cut a groove across here. This just helps the dough expand as it goes into the oven. That's called oven spring, when it kind of puffs up in the middle. And having a mark that you've pre-cut into this gives it a easier way for that to expand. So I'm just going to make a simple cut like that and call it good. And now the oven's been heating up at 450 for about an hour with my with my Dutch oven in it. So I'm now going to get the Dutch oven out and set it beside here so I can put it in there. All right, I just set it in the hot Dutch oven, and now this is going in the oven for 20 minutes with the lid on, and then we take the lid off for an additional 20 minutes. So here we go. All right, I just removed it from the oven. The internal temperature is just over 190. 190 is what you want to hit as a minimum with bread. And so that's it. So now we can take it out and take a look at it. And there we are. So hot, fresh, straight out of the oven. Get rid of that parchment paper. And there it is. It's a perfect loaf. People get fancy with, the cuts that they do on the top. You can do that if you want. I do have a razor blade lame for cutting that, but I wanted to demonstrate it with just regular knife. Works just fine. But anyway, yeah, that's about it. That thing rose quite a lot. You can see how big it is. So there you go. That's start to finish sourdough.